Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Zero Proof Life. This is where we get together and just talk all things Zero Proof Life. This might be topics of before you start the journey. You might be in the middle of that pain point right now where you really want to change your relationship with alcohol. You just don't know how to do it. We're going to be talking about those things, but also the after. And this is where I don't think people talk about this as much as we should because we live in such a boozy culture. It's important that we gather together and talk about, okay, how do I navigate this life alcohol free? I'm kind of the odd man out here. So how do I do this? And
So
so,
true.
yeah, Becca and I got together. We're like, this has been on our hearts for a while to do something like this. And when thinking about the topics, we were talking about socialization. And so first we're going to share with you just our own personal journeys, what that looked like when we both walked away from alcohol, what socializing looked like. We might share a couple of things not to do that we've seen people try, but also some great tactics, because that's what I always was looking for. Okay, how do I do this? And I also, just as a blanket thing, I want us to normalize talking about that this is hard. I don't know about you, Becca, but in coaching, this is, to me, I've seen people have one of the hardest times navigating.
100%, because we have been so conditioned to believe that we can't even have fun if alcohol's not involved. And so rightfully so, people would be a little apprehensive about, like, well, how do I even do this? Like, I don't know how to do this without alcohol.
Yes, and it goes into our core human needs as human beings, like the want to be the connection,
Yes.
being loved and accepted by others. So y'all, this goes deep. It's not
Yes.
this simple thing, because I know I did myself at the beginning. I would beat myself up. Like, why am I so awkward? Why is this hard for me? This can be a hard thing, but it doesn't have to be if we're talking about, like, again, how to do it. And also, I'm really excited. I just feel like things have changed a lot since I first stopped drinking, which was in 2014. There is truly a movement around this. And, our goal, I know for, me, is just normalizing not drinking.
Absolutely. And just getting yourself to a place where you feel confident, feels like it'll never happen, and that you feel uh, like it's even possible, like it will never happen. And that is like, that's what I love that we're here talking about. It's just like, okay, so you tell me, Carla, like for me, I was so ready. I was like, yes, because I love to be just a little bit different in all the ways. And it also kind of fit my personality, and like I put on this super cape, like I got this, and I was ready to go. Like, where's the girls' nights out? Where's the getaways with my husband? Like, I'm ready to get these reps in. But how was it for you? Because I know, like, we're not quite the same in that.
No, and this is why we didn't know this, y'all, going into this conversation, just how opposite we were on this topic. And it's good because we want you to see both sides. Because at the end of the day, you'll hear me say this on repeat. This is not a cookie cutter process. This is not where you walk in and you have this manual and like, these are the do's and these are do nots. You're not allowed to do this or you'll fail. If you do this, you'll fail. That's not how this works. I think it's about owning what is right for you at the time. And for those of you that don't know my story, I did, alcohol made me very sick. So mine's going to look a little bit different coming into being alcohol free because, I really couldn't hide. When you go into liver failure, you can't hide that. So I, I really went into like a hole and went into hiding. But looking back, there was multiple reasons for that. It wasn't just because I was sick, and you could visually tell just from the yellowness of my skin or my eyes. That was part of it, but really, there was a part of me that really, I knew this was important, and I knew being alcohol free was my number one priority. And for me, I needed to take a step back. And I needed to also, this might sound crazy, but I needed home to be my safe space. I needed to
Yeah.
learn how to sit at home alone, feel all the feels, and do this thing called life at home and be alcohol free. And so for me, what that looked like is I pretty much said no to everything.
Yeah.
Um, and I
Good
guess
point.
I, again, doing the nighttime, doing the boredom thing, doing all of that, but really learning what it was like to be alcohol free, get stronger in just that part of the journey. I wasn't ready to socialize yet. I realize, and I still to this day talk about the social anxiety that I struggle with. And so just learning how to not drink at home by myself all the time was like my number one task. So I said no, and I'm trying to think about how long that lasted for me. It was a while, and it really was organic for me when I finally started saying yes to things. And it was because it finally felt right. I felt steadier in this journey. My legs felt stronger and not as wobbly. And I knew going then into those situations that alcohol was off the table and not an option for me. And so I was then going to conquer that. So step
Yeah.
one for me was just learning how to just wake up and do my thing every day with work and family and not drink. So I said no to everything.
Yeah. That makes total sense though, because I mean, at some point we have to learn how to do all those things
Mhm.
alcohol free, depending on like if you were a social drinker or a binge drinker. I kind of fell in the category of um, definitely a social drinker, and but I would look for reasons to like go to dinner and go hang out with friends, and then it slowly crept into my home life. So for me, you know, I don't know. Such a good point. I'm gonna have to think on that one. I'm gonna hit that one up on another recording because like, but definitely with the socialization, I was ready to go. Because I like my last drink was on in September of 2018. And on October 1st, I was like, okay, 30 days. My first real thing was gonna be like handing out Halloween candy at the end of my driveway
Yeah.
without a drink, which, you know, one of my daughter's friend's mother would come over. We became good friends and we would sit and we'd hand out candy. And, and I was ready for that because I knew like, okay, 30 days. But then to get through all the holidays and all the like gatherings and, you know, my family didn't drink. So that wasn't a big deal for me, but like all my friends did. And so going to all those things, the holiday gatherings and the trips and stuff like that, I was ready for, even though I didn't know that I was gonna be ready for it. But yeah, I'm excited to talk about this
I
because
know.
it's
And
so
see, for
different.
me, my reality is I was a big time hider. And I think that again was also why it was so important for me to be able to be at home and not drink and have that be my step one. What
Mhm.
because I was really great at pretending to the world that I had it just fine. And I would have the classic one or two glasses out with people. But then what would happen was I would then go home. So I'd pregame it at home, then look like I was this quote unquote normal drinker. And again, that could be a whole other conversation too, because we're constantly comparing
Oh,
that comparison game where y'all think I thought everybody else, that's why I tried to play that game.
yeah.
You never know what people are doing on their own. And again, my story is one of those where I then would then come home um and then drink by myself.
Yeah, no, no, don't get it wrong. It eventually ended up to that hiding. That's when I knew. I feel like subconsciously, my story is I knew at some point that I was not going to ever drink because I could see it. Like I could see down the road, like this is not going to be good, but I'm just waiting till I get to that point where I'm ready.
Mhm.
Because, but, and when I started hiding it and getting caught, same like pregame, during the game, I have a
Yeah.
drink at dinner, but go to the bartender and say, could you make mine a double?
Yeah.
And just stuff like that. Like, it's just like, why am I doing that? I didn't even know myself. So, and that's when I was like, yes, this is when I knew like, okay, we're getting close to the end of this phase of my life.
The season.
Yes, it's time to change.
Um,
Yeah.
so let's talk about a little bit, and I'll share with you a story of what it really looked like for me. And this is advice I give people. So I want to share with people, okay, so what do they do?
Mhm.
And one of my first big socializing things was an event with girls that, um, girls from high school that I'm still super close with this day. That again, looking back, um, I, I could have and should have talked to them about my struggle. I just didn't know how to at the time. They would have loved me no matter what, but let's face it, when we're in the middle of that ick and not knowing, it's so scary to share with others that you're not drinking anymore. You know, it just, I didn't know how to have that conversation. And we were going to be doing a girls trip, and just meeting in, Clumber, where we all grew up. And I want to tell y'all, I had some of the worst ideas go through my mind. Again, just want to normalize it. I remember thinking, okay, I'm going to order a drink and just not drink it. Just, can we all just say that's a red flag and a really bad
That's
idea?
really like not a good idea,
It's really,
girl.
but
I
again,
wish I'd have been there. I'd have told you, hey friend, not a
I,
good idea.
go, yes. And I did not do that. Thank goodness. What I did do, and this is a huge thing that I want to share with people, is tell people in advance that you're not drinking. I remember sitting at my phone and just trying to, make the perfect text message. And I finally just said, y'all, I'm not going to be drinking, on this trip. I can't right now. Didn't get into it. I just said, happy to be the designated driver, and I got it out. And I really, looking back, that was such a crucial move for me to do. Let them know. Again, when you're with the right people, they didn't care. We were just all getting together. They were loved on me anyway, and they did not say one thing about me not drinking. But telling them in advance, then the way you're not sitting at the dinner table and then people questioning you. And I mean, I can't even, I can feel that anxiety and pressure that I would have felt if I had not just gone ahead and told them in advance that I'm just not going to be drinking. And that way, no one's peppering you with questions when you're already feeling a little socially uncomfortable. This is a new muscle that you're working, type of thing. So letting them know, especially, depending on the group, letting them know in advance, I think is an important thing to do.
Yeah, and seeking out the people, like I'm a huge advocate for creating the circle of people around you that are going to support you. And that may look a little different, which is also another really scary thing because it's not even necessarily about not drinking in a close circle of friends, but it's also about, what if they don't like me anymore? And I was very fortunate in my couple of circles of friends that I have, that when I told like some of my oldest friends, they were super supportive. And one of them, I, shared with them that was my neighbor. And I said, I'm afraid I'm not going to get invited anymore. And she was like, you know what? People judge you because you don't drink, then they're not your friend anyway. But in that same group of friends, someone looked at me and said, I mean, you are way funner, just like this. You're way funner when you're drinking. Granted, she was about 10 drinks in. So, it's kind of it is interesting because it creates more anxiety on top of what is already uncomfortable feelings of like this new found way of living. And so it really is. And I love that your friends, they just loved on you anyways. And so without you having to share, like that's really beautiful that you had that support. right from the
I
start.
did. And also I want to be real though too. I have had the other experiences
Mhm.
where I'm going to tell I stopped getting invited to some
Yeah.
things
Yeah.
because I know I've heard in other circles like people don't care if you drink, people don't care. Let's be real here, Becca, like you just said, some people do.
A
Some
hundred
people
percent.
do. And we have to
Hundred
talk
percent.
about that and we
Yes.
have to be real. And it just highlights how ingrained alcohol is in our society, in our culture. It's at everything. Like you talked about Halloween. How many
Yeah.
times have you and I coached people where Halloween, they're having to gear up because it's a whole new
Yes.
holiday
Yeah.
without alcohol. There are
Yeah.
people walking around and the adults are getting their drink on around the neighborhood, walking the kids. It's everywhere. And
Yeah.
so it highlights when you're not drinking. And I try and put myself in the position like, okay, what would I, when someone was not drinking around me, why did I feel uncomfortable? And I'll tell you right now why I would feel uncomfortable is because I would think, oh, they're judging me. I was uncomfortable with my own drinking. So
Yes.
the whole idea of it just, it's a mirror and it's having that person look at themselves is 1,000% true. And it's a shame because when people are uncertain, unsure, and it's, let's say this, their first, we talk about all those first times, the first holiday, the first wedding season, the first Halloween, it's a first. And so when you're going in unsure and a little shaky, people can, say things that make you feel even more uncomfortable and make you some of those fears that you mentioned
Yes.
feel like they're coming true. Like people aren't going to like me. People aren't going to want to, or people aren't going to think I'm fun.
100%. And you said something that was really interesting. I used to think people would judge me because I judged them.
Yes.
Right? I mean,
Right.
so it is kind of like you said, like that mirror, holding that mirror up to yourself. But one of the tools I used from the get-go was I decided very early on that this is going to be a challenge for me because I'm one of those people that thrives on just a little bit of friction in my life, which some would say, I got plenty. And I would say, probably, I got plenty too. But for me, it was like this personal challenge that I set out for myself, like, or almost this game, like, okay, I'm going into, and like, instead of pre gaming, I would pre-game in a different way. And I would go in like, okay, I'm going to walk in here and I am going to take a mental note of 15 minutes in, 30 minutes in, an hour in. I'm going to observe other people. I'm going to watch their behavior. I'm going to notice how many people get twitchy or edgy waiting on the server to come back around to take another drink order. Like, like I just want to observe. I just want to like take some mental notes so that I can um, just better understand what this even is going to feel like to be alcohol free. Because so many times I would go into dinners and go, I'm not going to drink tonight. And that never worked. It never worked because maybe means yes. And in the back of my mind, I already had maybe. So making that decision before I ever left my house, like legit, y'all, I would be like, okay, girl, you got this. Like I'd be giving myself chest bumps, high five in the mirrors. And I'm like, you got this. We're going to do. And it's like crazy to look back now, like, wow, it really took all that. But you know what? Yeah, wow, it really took all that. But it worked for me.
Yes. I love what you said about observing, putting yourself in the observer role for the night. And I don't know, for me, it just puts you back in control. We can feel so like that lack of control going into a big social setting, and that's unnerving. Being an observer and saying, okay, I'm just going to watch. I'm going to watch how other people behave and what they do and what happens when they are a few drinks in, and watching what alcohol truly does. We sit there and think and give it the job of making us have fun. I have seen some, what shows go down at social events because people have had too much to drink. But just watching. Another powerful thing that, again, talk about, I felt empowering, and someone may not know this term and what it is, but there's nothing wrong with just ghosting and peacing out. You do not have to tell everybody and their mother that you're leaving. I always, again, as just again, we'll have a future episode on people pleasing. I struggled with, like, then everybody was going to see, and I would have to have this big excuse to leave whenever I was just ready to go. Y'all, you have permission to just get up and leave wherever you want. You don't have to let everybody know, give them this big reason why. Just say thank you and I have fun, and you just leave. Or just text them the next day and say, that was a beautiful event and I had the best time.
Great idea. I love that. Well,
Yes.
tell me this, Carla, when you would, so let's say you've gotten ready, you visualization, like we're big on that, and we could do a
Yes.
whole other episode on visualization and how to do that, what that looks like. And it can be very quick and it doesn't have to be deep, but you get there, you've done all the things to prep. How do you, what is your first go-to response when people go, you're not drinking, but you drink. You're not drinking? Like, what do you do for that? Because
Oh
that I
gosh.
think is such a big, like people go, oh crap, I wasn't ready for that. Hold on.
Yes. And this, I'm so glad you asked this, because this is where I say to people all the time, this is the piece of advice I wish I had known way back when. Is not everybody deserves your story. I put so much pressure on myself that, oh my gosh, I'm gonna have to tell them what happened to me and why I made the decision that I did, or about me getting sick. This personal journey that I still didn't know what the heck happened months after it happened. I was still trying to grasp what exactly did happen to me. And I put so much pressure on myself on what to say. And what if I then lie and they're going to figure out that I'm about everything that happened? Let yourself off the hook and you say whatever feels organic and true to you in the moment. Because quite honestly, what I said years ago is totally different than what I say now. And that is a-okay.
So true. So
Right?
true. As you get some space, it
Yes,
changes.
and I think that I don't know, it was an ingrained in a belief that it's like I had to stand on a mountaintop and clean myself to be and label myself that I'm this, and so I can't drink. You can, but I can't. And it's just not true. I just had to figure things out. So honestly, in my story, I had to just speak my truth. And I got sick and I just, I'm on tons of stuff. I can't drink right now. And that was my thing at the very beginning.
Yeah.
And again, that morphed into different things. And I see it as such a beautiful process. It was me growing into this new skin of mine, this new truth that I now own. Well, one, it's pretty obvious to people because it's what I do for a living. So if
Yeah.
they follow me at all, they know what I
Not
do.
hard.
Yeah. But and so now I'm just, again, I remember the first time, Becca, and it felt so good. And again, it was organic. I wasn't forcing myself to do it. So I want y'all to hear me that are watching or listening this. This was not me at the very, very beginning of my journey. It started off shaky. I can't right now, or I'm taking medicine that I just can't drink, and just letting it pass on. I just need to do what felt right. But I remember that first time I told someone, I just don't drink. And that felt so good. Wasn't
Yes.
followed with tons of excuses or my life story as to why I couldn't. And I remember the simplicity of that and thinking, oh, I don't drink alcohol, and just left it. And it felt so good. And that's, again, it was just it took working those muscles. It took me figuring out what was my truth, what felt good and right to me, and then owning it. And that was a cool place to get to.
Absolutely. And I do think it is one of the hardest things for people. And I remember I have a friend that now just says, I've divorced alcohol.
Yeah.
And I used to just say, I have banked enough drunks for a lifetime. I'm
Yes.
taking a break in the beginning. Definitely just taking a break was a big one for me. I remember, but the people that knew me well, they knew that I was already taking a break, because
Yeah.
I told them for some accountability in a moment of like real courage. And by the way, just it does take courage to just
Yeah.
tell someone so that they can help because they care about you. So I had already told several people, but for people that didn't know me, like first of all, like I don't know, it just, I mean, I just started saying wild stuff because it just kind of got a little bit old.
Yeah.
Some people had told me like, oh, there's no way you're going to do this, and I mean, and I was like, rightfully so. They probably didn't believe me, but in the moment, I would just go, like, hey, just taking a break. I'm not feeling it tonight. I'm driving is a big one because we need to be
Hmm.
responsible. Um, and so those are some really like off the cuff things. And then the people that you can trust that really care about you and who you are and what you're about, then you can tell them like, I just really didn't like what it was doing for me right now. And I feel like I need to, another one I would say is like, yeah, I'm not on Prozac, I'm not on Lexapro, I'm not on Paxil, but I'm drinking
Right.
instead of trying. And so, like I'm self-medicating. And so, it's like in some way it was a survival technique. And I just had to learn how to do like, all the things without it.
Yeah. And I think there's more and more people. And if you're one of those people listening that does this, I just want to say thank you. Because there's a few people in my life now that are like, bottom line, I don't like how it makes me feel.
Yeah.
And Becca, how simple and beautiful, and that's the truth. And we need more and more people sharing that to get to that goal where we do normalize, this
Yeah.
whole, I don't like how it makes me feel. And that is the truth. I mean, most people that once I get into, if I get the chance to get into a good meaty conversation about it, which I love, if y'all around me, it will light me up and plug me in if you want to talk about this.
Yeah.
I can
Yes.
tell really quick when they don't, because whenever I know you see this,
Uh-huh.
Becca, where all of a sudden like, it's someone
Uh-huh.
glazes over. It's like they put on these these
Yes.
earmuffs. Like, oh
Yes.
my God, what is she saying? But
Yes.
I've gotten into some beautiful conversations with people that have said, they get curious because then they're like, they genuinely want to know, how did you do it? What was going on? Oh my gosh. I'm like, oh my God, let me talk about my favorite topic.
Yeah.
Let's talk about this. And then they'll say, well, when I did take a break, I mean, gosh, my sleep. I mean, my heart rate, my resting heart, like I wasn't anxious anymore. I want to just stress to people, if you are curious about what this thing is like, and that's why I'm so excited at the Zero Proof Life, we started doing the challenge, offering a place where people can kind of dip their toe in and figure out what this thing is like. Um, and have a really awesome, supportive group of people doing that together. The benefits that people see when they step away is absolutely mind-boggling. So, and when people can then look at each other, when we think about the pushback that we get socially, I want to look at people and say, if you
Yeah.
only knew the gift it is when you stop putting that in your body immediately reacts and responds and thanks you for it.
And not to mention, like I know, you have a very involved story. Mine is one that started very involved also, and it started years before I ever really quit. I had this discomfort with the amount I would drink at one
Mhm.
time, and like there was no stop. And so I want to make sure that, there's a lot of people that may be listening to this that may not be hiding it, but they're just not liking the way that they are, or something you always say is, what job are you giving it? They may not be
Mhm.
liking the job they're giving alcohol. And so, that a 30-day break is so good for everyone, not just those who may be having some real cognitive dissonance and discomfort around their alcohol use. It can be, someone that just is like, I'm going to take a 30-day reset, a 30-day break to see how does my body even respond? Like, what's it causing in my body? We do all this work with movement and diet and eating organic and such, but then we kill our gut with this is a whole nother topic. But I
Yeah.
mean, we just mentioned a little bit of our story, but it can look very different than ours. Like discomfort with alcohol is discomfort with alcohol, no matter what your story is.
Yes, absolutely. Okay, so for time's sake, if you could give someone your number one tip
Mhm.
for socializing, would it be what would it be that visualization? What would it be?
For me, it would be figure out, well, my favorite saying is who says,
Oh yeah, people. Yeah,
and who says, and what if? Like, what if I can have fun without it? How do you
Mhm.
know unless you even try? And that was my thing. Like, I needed to try these things or else I would never know. And not
Yeah.
just once, I had to try a couple of times. So, those are two of the things that I would ask myself on the repeat. Like, who says I need a drink right now? What if I
Mhm.
don't? What if I could just sit here and continue this game I've created for myself? Again, for me, my number one, and that was a part of my game, like going in and, just seeing like what kind of superpower. I just remember hearing Brene Brown say that one of her biggest superpowers was her sobriety. And for me, being alcohol free, I wanted to see what that felt like. So I would, think, who says, and what if I don't need it?
Yes, I
Yeah.
love that. I
Yeah.
would
What
say
about
mine
you?
mine would be telling someone, have that a little bit of an accountability partner. That could be a friend that's there and just say, listen, I'm going into this, I'm going to be alcohol free. Or it could be just like I talked about earlier and letting the people know at that dinner party or that event or whoever, like, I'm not drinking. I did see someone do a beautiful job. She let the hostess know in advance. She's like, I don't drink, but I found this beautiful bottle of alcohol free wine. Do you mind if I bring it? And I thought that was a really, again, once you let that person know in advance, and it just sends you into that event with a different confidence than, oh, what's wrong with me? And I'm not going to have
Percent.
nothing's going to be here for me. She owned it and then brought something with her. Then she could drink herself. I thought that was really well done. Um,
Yes. That's
but
that's a great point.
yeah, and let people know in advance. But also, own what is right for you. Like for Becca, I love that you were saying, like, I need those reps. I was ready to get out there and do it. But for someone like me, if you're more like me, it's okay if you're not ready yet. It's
Mhm.
okay.
It
Give
is.
yourself that space and time. For me, it was much more important for me to remain alcohol free than it was for me to go to that dinner party. That stuff I just knew I can do that down the road. I'm just not ready right now. And
Mhm.
so do what is right for you at the time.
Yeah.
But I just want to say, if you have any other things that you want us to speak on, or as you could tell, we will not have a problem with topics.
Really?
um, but this was a great place to start. And so if you have any ideas or want something, just, send it in. You can email or whatever. Let us know if there's a
Or
topic.
drop a comment.
Drop a comment. Let us know what you want to hear about, and we will hop on and do it. But thank you for hanging with us. And you can check out everything that we do at thezeroprooflife.com.
Yes.
All right.
Thanks, y'all.